Hi, I want to give you a quick tour of my retro computing themed office. I have retro computing themed tchotchkes, retro computers, and retro computing themed art. Starting right here with a piece of classic ASCII art printed out from an ASR 33 teletype. Going around the room, I have some more art. I have Inside IBM and Number Cruncher. These are not Robert Tinney's paintings for Byte magazine. These are photographs that I take of real-world objects and composite them together to recreate Robert Tinney's scenes. I have a working Wang calculator from the 1960s. Actually, it's just the console. The Wang 300 series required an external electronic package for doing the calculations. I got this console off eBay, made a board to plug into it and bring it to life. Here you see it displaying the time, 1:21 on February 9th. But if I turn the console on, it emulates the original Wang calculator's behavior, including the funky way it flickered it whenever you did calculations. By the way, this toy mailbox next to the Wang calculator isn't retro, but it's sort of cool. When the mailman delivers mail to my curb, the flag goes up. On the other side of the calculator, I have a pencil holder made out of a printing plate for IBM punched cards. This is an octagonal room, so it's challenging to hang things in the corners. But I have an 8-inch floppy here, and then I have some shelves with a variety of tchotchkes on 3D printed miniatures. Here's a fused glass IMSI 8080 I made. And vacuum tube paperweights. And a silicon wafer. The TTL data book. A Heathkit oscilloscope that I found in my neighbor's trash, so I turned it into a clock. A Tektronix 212 battery-powered oscilloscope. It's the cutest little oscilloscope you ever did see. A battery-powered vacuum tube radio. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. Timex Sinclair 1000. I bought it because I had this idea of making a museum of crappy keyboards. It would include the Timex Sinclair 1000, the original Commodore PET, the original IBM PC Junior, and so on. A Heathkit powered breadboard. If you're prototyping vintage circuits, there's nothing with more geek cred than this. Another octagon corner and another clock. This one from a 14-inch hard disk platter. Now we come to the place in my office where I can actually get some work done. This is my modern Windows PC. It's inside a Hewlett-Packard logic analyzer enclosure. The knob adjusts volume. The buttons launch apps. Nestled under the computer is an HP 97 desktop calculator. Next to the computer I have workbenches for doing electronics. There's nothing really retro here except a Motorola CMOS coffee mug. On the last two walls I have two more photographic recreations of Robert Tinney's paintings. Chip building and computer engineering. And now let's get to the computers. An Atari 400. Another candidate for the Museum of Crappy Keyboards. But until then, useful for playing Star Raiders. The Vectrex. I've owned this since the 1980s. If you're not familiar with it, it has a built-in vector graphics display. An AT&T Unix PC. Why? Because I rescued it from my local town dump. A deck writer correspondent. Very rare. Hooked up to a Sim1. I made an expansion board for the Sim1 that includes 32K RAM, ROM with BASIC and a disk operating system built in, and a solid-state drive. And last but not least, a PyDP-11, which is a Raspberry Pi inside this beautiful PDP-1170 enclosure. connected to a VT52, which was also rescued from the trash, but not by me. I bought it from a guy who has a friend at Staples who is keeping his eye on the recycle bin. Neither of them knew what this was, but they recognized it as something unusual. There's one more thing. About 12 years ago, I made a small form factor Altair 8800 replica with a modern Windows PC inside. I don't use it much anymore, but I thought you'd enjoy seeing it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this tour of my retro computing office. Thanks for watching.